A lot of discussion, robust discussion happened behind the cameras that you wouldn't see. That's for us alone. But let's get into the discussion. Now, in response to the rising insecurity in Zamfara State, the state government recently directed residents to obtain guns for self-defense. It also directed the State Police Commissioner to issue licenses to those qualified to use guns for self-defense. Reactions have been trailing this directive. But what is the impact of such decision on the citizens, the state government, and Nigeria as a whole? So, consultant to the Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons, Darlington Numoru, is here, and he will be joined by security and counterterrorism expert, retired Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, joining us from our Abuja studio. Gentlemen, good morning. Good to see you.
Morning, Mike.
Good morning.
My pleasure. Morning.
And good morning, Group Captain Shehu. Good morning, too, to you. All right. While we prepare his audio to join us proper, let's start from the studio. Now, we have been following developments from Zamfara State, and one would say is a new twist. And we have also heard the reaction from the Chief of Defense Staff as to the security agents not answerable or take orders from the state government. But talk to us at this instance. Does the state actually, is he in the place with the powers and within the ambit of the law to issue directive for licenses or gun licenses for residents?
Apparently, that question has been answered by the Chief of Defense Staff.
That was his position.
And even the Chief of Army Staff. They've told him clearly that that power is the prerogative of the federal government, and it has a procedure, it has a process it has to go through. And well, it starts actually with the office of the State Police Commissioner, and again, he has been told clearly that the police commissioner is not answerable to him. That's a mistake. And this is some of the security problems we're having in states, where the governor is purportedly to be the chief security officer, and yet you have a state police commissioner, and you say sometimes, or in most times, that the police commissioner is not answerable to the state governor. Then it creates a kind of lacuna, or what you want to call a quagmire, in the process of ensuring that security is actually achieved. And we have seen situations where even the police and the governor sometimes may not be working cordially, and then it brings a bigger problem. Take it down to the issue of the position of the Zamfara state governor at this time. I think he's overwhelmed. I think he's been overwhelmed by the level of insecurity in Zamfara, in his state. The federal government had taken measures over time to control the insecurity in Zamfara state. Even when I visited the other time, when we had to do some training for some security agents in terms of the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. Yes, the governor is looking at the extreme measure of controlling, taking charge of security in the state. We have also seen situations where a governor once came out, was it governor, a minister told Nigerians that they should defend themselves, even though they don't bear arms.
The Minister of Defense.
These are all misplacements. If a minister could get to that level, you wouldn't blame the governor for asking the police to begin to issue a license. Well, that is in the law. It's not as if Nigerians don't bear arms, the non-state actors. Bearing of arms ordinarily is supposed to be the prerogative of the state actors. But we've seen situations where the non-state actors, in fact, Mike, to shock you, the amount of arms from research, firearms now, in the hands of the non-state actors is far, far more than what you have in the hands of the state actors. That's talking about the proliferation of small arms and light weapons now.
In the entire region.
In the entire region. Now, the legal ones is there. You can obtain arms if you follow the right process. And then, of course, there's a reason, gaming. The simple reason you want to have that is gaming, but not for self-defense like you have in Europe and America. We don't have that here in this part of the world. That law is not there. But we've seen situations where the non-state actors procure arms, even from people you cannot really identify as those who are licensed to sell these arms. So in the Zamfara state, to answer your question, the Zamfara state governor does not have that power to issue an order or an appeal to the commissioner of police to say, begin to. Even the police commissioner does not have the final say as to who gets and who bears arms as a private individual in Zamfara state.
All right.
Yeah, but that leads to the next question.
I guess this should go to Group Captain Sadiq Shehu now.
Is he ready now?
Yeah, he's ready. He's standing by in Abuja.
Okay, I want you to answer this question. The governor knows the limitations of his powers. He knows that as a security officer, he's a titular head. But he goes ahead and gives the order anyway. Is it less about the governor's powers, but more of a referendum on Nigerian security in the center, that they have woefully failed to do their first duty to the people? And therefore, he says, I have failed, government has failed, you don't fail yourself. Bear arms. And they don't need to go to the police to get their arms. They can get their arms anywhere. Yeah. So we have non-state actors defending themselves against non-state actors while the state actors look on. Is that what we have now?
Is that a question to me, please?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you very much. I heard what my fellow guest is saying, and I will align with him in saying, when we are talking about ownership of guns, let's look at the extant laws. What are the laws and regulations that guard or regulate the ownership of arms by individual citizens? Unfortunately, when you talk of a particular law, the only law we have, the parent law, is the Firearms Act of February 1959. I emphasize 1959, that is to say even before Nigeria became independent. When you talk about gun laws in Nigeria, you find that ultimately you have to go back to this law. Now, apart from the dated nature of this law, there have been some other developments, either by the federal government, by the National Assembly, or by states like Lagos to regulate the use of arms. If you come down the line, after the 1959 law, you have the Public Armories Notice of 1961, another Public Armories Notice of 1968. Then you have the Firearms Delegation of IGP Responsibilities of 1968. Then you have the Lagos State Firearm Restriction Order of 19 October 1971. Then recently, under the Buhari administration, we have had an executive order issued on 22nd May of 2019, which orders the cancellation of all licenses that have been already issued. And then the National Assembly, started work on a firearm amendment bill of 2021, which didn't go a long way. And then there is the bill of the small arms and light weapons, which gave birth to the organization for which my co-guest is consulting. Then again in 2019, we have the IGP, that is the former IGP, announcing that the police has placed a suspension on the issuance of gun licenses. Now, when you look at all these things, we come back to Governor of Zamfara. Does he have the power to order or direct the Commissioner of Police to issue licenses? The answer is, if you check all these documents, the answer is no. However, that is not to say that the governor does not have a role to play. He has a role of play of conversing with the Commissioner of Police or with the IGP with regards to the situation in his state. In the whole of the Firearms Act, only in 3 places was the governor mentioned with the role he's going to play. First, it says the Commissioner of Police of a state, with consent of the governor of the state, can issue licenses to cover what are called Category 3 weapons. I will come to categories because there are different categories. And then it says the governor also, together with the president, have the responsibility of deciding what is the amount to be paid in his state for the issuance of license. The other role that the governor has is in relation with issuing licenses for those that will manufacture or repair guns, weapons. So these are the only things that the governor has. So I think the governor, with due respect, was not properly advised to come out and say that he has directed or he has ordered the CP to issue weapons in Zamfara State. He does not have those powers. The next issue is the commissioner of police himself. Does he even have the powers? Now, the Firearms Act says it gives the power of issuing different kinds of great categories of weapons. It made differentiation among 3 categories of weapons. There is the category 1 weapons, which are prohibited absolutely. Nobody can be given the power to acquire or to possess them, except if you are working with the military or security agencies. These are prohibited weapons. And it is only the president that can allow somebody to have, and that someone has to be either a military or security or intelligence officer. That's government agencies. Then there are category 2 weapons. Category 2 weapons are called personal weapons. These ones are the shotguns that normally people obtain, which police normally listen. And in those ones, the IGP is the one that will issue licenses for such weapons. However, in the Firearms Act, there is a provision for the IGP to delegate his powers to any police officer. Here we can say maybe the police commissioner or even somebody of a divisional police officer. He can delegate that power, but it is the power incomes on him. Then the third category of weapons, we are talking of muzzle loading weapons, then guns, flintlocks, all those kind of things. Those ones is within the purview of the commissioner of police to issue with consent from the state governor. The state governor, with regards to those category 3, I emphasize only category 3, he can do an order in conversation with the commissioner of police that such order in such state, such weapon, which are this category, license can be issued subject to the following conditions. He has to state the conditions under which this, including health, eyesight, conviction of violence. All these are things that can disqualify somebody from getting even those category 3. But I emphasize, because I see some people saying bandits have AK-47, we should get AK-47. Those are category 1 weapons. Any weapons that uses 7.62 millimeter bullet or 9 millimeter bullet or 0.303 inch bullet or 0.300 bullet, all those ones can never be issued except somebody is working with federal agencies. So the issue is that when you look at the right to self-defense, which is based on which we are talking about, yes, the Constitution, Section 33, one of the subsections, tells that the right of a citizen to life is guaranteed. However, it gives a proviso where the life of a citizen can be taken in the protection of yourself or your property or in effecting arrest or in dispersing insurrection. So self-defense kicks in for a citizen to look for the weapons. But what I think what was not done, the governor was not well advised about his powers. And then everybody has his powers, from president, IGP, CP, with regard to issuers. The rest of the thing is that I have spoken about the Amendment Act passed by National Assembly. I think it's, yes, which they did in 2019. It didn't go far enough, because I'm telling you, we're talking of a parent document that dates 1959. All the National Assembly did was to, to change the punishment for the possession of illegal arms. Before, the punishment, if you check 1959 as, is only 1,000 naira fine. 1,000 naira. So they changed it to 3 million and said that either 3 million or 3 years, which is good. But there are other many aspects in that 1959 law that I expected our National Assembly members to come and talk. And now, with this issue raised by the Zamfara State government, we will find that 1959 law is not adequately catering for what we have. With regards to the executive order, still, till this date, it was passed by the president on 22nd May 2019. Up to now, there is no clarity about what that order said. In fact, the police spokesman that is Frank Mba, was reported to have said they are not even aware of the executive order. So you see, we have a lot of confusion, and this, what I am happy is that this demand
by governor of Zamfara State, which all other governors are looking, it will make us to realize that we have many legal lacuna with regards to, ownership of guns in Nigeria. Now, having said that, is it a good thing or bad thing? It's a good thing, but it can also be a bad thing. We all read newspapers. Americans who under their various acts have agreed that citizens will have weapons. We can see the struggle what they're having. So if you don't look at it holistically, how do you issue? Who gets issued? How do you account for weapons in the hands of the people? Periodic bring back your weapon. Let's see it is still with you. How many arms or ammunition are still with you? If you used it, what did you use it for? If you don't have those things in place, including safe places, because if this thing goes the way we are going, it means in almost every village, you are going to have people with weapons. Where are they going to keep them? What happens if somebody has a license and he is dead? He dies. What happens? Is the weapons going to be taken over by another person or his children? All these are issues that really need to look at. So I think what the Zamfara State governor has done is to start a debate. Here, I must commend, because when I listed all those laws, you will see it is only Lagos State. Naturally, they are always specified. It's always Lagos State. After this 1959, 1960 laws, it was only Lagos State that I think in 1971 that did something which the federal government should have done. You know, they did a firearms restriction order. What did it say? The order from the day it was given, it says anybody that is in possession of a weapon in Lagos State is supposed to surrender it, whether legal or illegal. They gave a window. Now, after you have surrendered it, then you reapply based on a criteria, and then you are reissued. Now, when I checked the executive order of Mr. President with due respect of 22 May 2019, it only says it has been revoked. It didn't give an order, a window for people to return. It didn't give an order of after returning, what criteria. Mind you, every citizen has a right to apply for a gun. But even in the 1959 Act, the dated Act, it says there are, if you are refused, there's a recourse to complain or to raise an observation, and the authorities are duty-bound to tell you why you are refused. And what are the conditions that you can be refused? Eyesight is one of them. If you have poor eyesight, you can be refused. If you have been convicted within the last 5 years of act of violence or threatening violence upon another person, you can be refused. There is another condition, I really cannot recall it. But there are conditions. It is only upon those conditions that a governor or federal government can refuse somebody.
Okay.
And if you feel
Group Captain,
as a right of a citizen, you can apply.
Debate. In fact, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu says it is a debate that the governor of Zamfara State has started in Nigeria for us to look into the issues of licensing of weapons in Nigeria, especially from the recent call and move by the state government to have residents arm themselves to defend themselves. I have with me in the studio, or we have with us in the studio, terrorism, security and counterterrorism expert, retired Group Captain Sadiq Shehu from Abuja studio, as well as consultant to the Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons, Darlington Umaru, here with us in the studio in Lagos.
Darlington, that was a very long and beautiful oratory on laws and guns in Nigeria. But the real issue is that the governor is not interested in laws and guns. He knows all of these laws. I'm sure it's not that it was misadvised. It's that he feels that the advised thing to do is to create this situation, because I said it's supposed to be a referendum on the federal government's failure. So it is not about whether the man knows the law or he doesn't know the law. It's that they have failed. So that is what he's trying to do. What do you say?
Exactly. You're not far from the truth. I said he has been overwhelmed in my first submission. Mm-hmm. I said the man is overwhelmed, by the level of insecurity in his state. Don't forget that the issue of this banditry thing actually started from Zamfara State. And then considering the factors that fund all of that, the illegal mining of gold in Zamfara State, where you have all sorts of illegal miners arming those who are supposed to protect them against the state actors when they come for arrest and all of that. You know, we have various theories as to how banditry started. But you have seen in situations where even the bandits, when they kidnapped people from other states, they had to move them to Zamfara region. And then when you do your negotiation, they were released from the Zamfara region, particularly the cases of those who were kidnapped from Katsina State, even though Katsina State shares a border with the Zamfara State. But why would they always take them to that place? You know, but the fact is that whether we like it or not, the level of insecurity, the activities of these bandits, I was there myself on ground. And then I asked questions. Even while I was moving on the road, I asked questions. The people could point to say this area is a no-go area. There's a point, if you're leaving Zamfara State, there's a road that links Niger State. Okay? That section is a no-go area. Because ordinarily, a cabman that is supposed to, or you that is traveling to Lagos, you want to go through Niger, cut off the whole of the going through Kaduna, the Pins and all of that. But that zone is the habitat for, one of the habitats for these bandits. And then there are different areas, and then you find the security measures put in place. And all of these security measures put in place are under the control of the federal government. Because the security apparatus in Nigeria, according to the constitution, or well, decrees and all of that, all listed, the reserve gave the federal government the power to control security. That's why people, or the state government are also clamoring today, talking about the state policing, where they can also have some measure of control over policing in their states. But whether we like it or not, the Northwest, of all the states, about 6-7 states in the Northwest, 2 have particularly suffered the most. We're talking about Zamfara and Kaduna State. Of course, we know that the issue of Kaduna is beyond both bandits, because they already had an issue on ground that had to do with the Fulanis versus the Hausas before the issue of the bandits now took over. But incidentally, you really cannot separate any of those activities today that is happening in Kaduna State. But in Zamfara State particularly, we all know that those we refer to as bandits that have now been legally declared as terrorists, you know, so that certain measures can be taken against them. One of the problems we had, or one of the lacuna we had in the past, was the fact that there are conditions for which these people who sell arms to us will always give, particularly when the Tucanos were being sold to Nigeria. You remember one of those very strong conditions they gave to the country? They said you must not use them against those who are non-terrorists. So they can only be applied where you have terrorists. And then it became, the hands of the federal government were tied. At a point in time, they could not do beyond a particular, they could not go beyond a particular level of using the kind of weapons they have to hit some areas. But again, what some of these countries that sell these firearms to us do not understand is the fact that even the terrorists have become more sophisticated. Where do they get their firearms from? Where do they get their weapons from that they use? You know, there's even a controversy now as to a helicopter that was used somewhere in Kaduna State, and then why the federal government why the government is saying that that helicopter, white helicopter as described, was sent there by the government to help rescue, but the people are claiming that it was not so, that it was actually used by the bandits. Today, the bandits have all kinds of weapons in their possession. Even the anti-aircraft weapon, they have all of that to hit aircraft. We have seen situations where aircraft were brought down, and then the bandits claimed that they were responsible for all of that. It tells you how much sophistication, you know, the bandits have. Well, I don't like calling them bandits anymore. They are terrorists, according as far as I am concerned. But the challenge we have is that Zamfara State government has come, the Zamfara State governor, what he has indirectly told Nigerians, that in terms of security, his state is overwhelmed. But we're also expecting that people like El Rufai of Kaduna State should have also come up with things like this. But there's a big danger in his pronouncement. And then, like he said, every governor is watching. Everybody is watching. We are bandwagoners in this country. If it is allowed, it becomes it's going to spread. And when it spread, can you control? Take it to advanced countries where even this is largely allowed. What do you find on daily basis? Even underage children. It's not about you being cleared to own the weapon in that category that you are supposed to have it. Okay? But when you keep it in your house, how do you control your children, your wife, from having access to it to make use of them? And then at the end of the day, they get to the hands of the wrong people, and then they are used to murder people. In this country where poverty is on a large scale, if you drop a weapon in your house and your family members know you have a weapon, and then you have a child, a stubborn child, who has an issue outside, he can come home, pick that weapon, and go hit somebody. And then you begin to pick corpses on the road in Nigeria. Fine, we have this problem of insecurity, but I think the security agencies are doing their best. But the challenge is that those of them who are meant to fight terrorists, they are overstretched.
At this point, in fact, there was something Darlington said here that we are bandwagoners. If I have to go by that, his definition, we know that the frustration in Zamfara State is the same frustration in Benue State, is the same frustration in Niger State, is the same frustration in Kaduna State, and several other states, apart from Borno and Yobe, that have recovered from the way it used to be. Now, putting Zamfara State on the platter right now, what options are left for the governor? Because at this point, he's also crying out, just like we hear the governor of Benue State cry out sometimes. And like you said, he has started a debate. What option is left for him right now?
Well, what I would advise the governor to do is to examine the extant laws and regulations, as few as they are, as outdated as they are, to see what is it that he can do within his purview as a governor of a state. I will still come back to that because everything is based on law. The difference between an organized society and a disorganized society is following law or not following law. Now, while looking at that, I'm saying that based on the principle of self-defense, for a citizen to get something to protect himself, especially, unfortunately, I emphasize unfortunately, where it is seeming that our security architecture is not in position to respond to the current security threats, because that is the bottom line of what the governor is saying. He has almost lost confidence in the ability of the government security agencies to take care of his people. Now, in modern societies, the ideal thing is that the means of violence, arms and ammunition, should be in the hands of government through its agencies like military, like police, like intelligence. That is the ideal situation. But I think we are not in an ideal situation where the security is not fit for purpose, or is not in position, or is struggling to respond to the current security challenges. So we have to look elsewhere in the principle of self-defense, citizen self-defense. However, in thinking of giving citizens the right to self-defense, it's good to even look at the current figures. Mr. Darlington spoke of figures. I will add to that. So researcher says that there are 350 million illegal arms in circulation in Nigeria. 350 million. Other researchers have said that the whole security forces of Nigeria, military, army, intelligence, everybody, police, what they have in their hands is 6 million weapons. I mean, it's 588,000. 588,000. Whereas what is in the hands of non-state actors is 6 million currently. So when you are thinking of allowing citizens to get more arms, to add to this 6 million versus 588, you have to think very well. Gun control is a whole industry in itself. When we brought GSM and cell phone, we even have GSM villages now in many places. To be honest, if this conversation goes away, you will have gun villages. You are going to have manufacturers. You are going to have sellers. You are going to get repairers. You are going to get people that will build in armories. So it is a whole industry that you have to think about. You have to think at the pros of cons. At the same time, if we listen to General Marwa in NDLEA, we are also struggling, especially in those northwest areas. I'm from the northwest. We are struggling of issues of drug addiction of our youth. So what does that tell you? If you are going to be telling citizens to get weapons, you really have to look, or else you get what is called the Cobra effect, or law of unintended consequences. Americans, as regulated as they are, you can see the
rigorous debate that has been going on about gun control. Whenever there is gun control, you see the executive, the legislature, the private organization, they all join in. In Nigeria, the debate about gun control, even before this, by Zamfara, has been a very mixed, very confusing this thing. When Buhari signed the 22 May 2019 executive order on withdrawal of this thing, I must say that the order didn't go enough. Because what you are supposed to do when you have a guns problem is first issue order that revokes and tell everybody bring back with a window. If you don't do that, you are breaking a law with heavy consequences. Now, after that window, people now reapply based on certain criteria, and then you decide those people that you are going, are they of a sound mind? Right. Are they well trained? With conditions. Periodically, you have to return your weapon with the ammunition to account for, I have my weapon with 20, there's nothing that happened, I still have 20. Or I had 20 ammunition, I have used 5. I used the 5 in so-so and so-so this. So unless you think through all these things, just throw in, telling people to go and sign. And now, when Buhari signed that order, the National Assembly raised objection that do not agree. But like we normally do in Nigeria, it died down. When I was doing my research, I saw that conversation was never followed through. Then the National Assembly, somehow, the idea came that they should review the 1959 Act. But of all the things to change, the only thing they changed is punishment for possession of illegal arms, which they changed from 1,000 naira to 3 million or 3 years imprisonment. If you check the 1959 Act, up to now, all you have to pay to obtain a license is a ridiculous amount of 2 naira up to 6 naira.
All right, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu.
So that is to say, if you say people should apply now as of now, that is what yes, please.
Group Captain Shehu, I think we need to organize a very comprehensive forum where you have to take us through all of these processes, because when it comes to understanding this, Nigerians have a lot to know and a lot to learn from this. In fact, it looks like sitting down and watching you as a lecturer give me all of that. Thank you so much. But this is the much time can permit us right now to take on the program. But we will keep this conversation going and keep it going as we get along. Thank you so much for coming on the program. Thank you.